My name is Will, and I'm the founder of Motorcycle Mastery. Motorcycle Mastery just launched March 19th. But in today's episode, I want to talk to you about 5 common mistakes that put riders at risk and why you need to avoid them. Let's get on the road. So on my thumbnail video, one side was with both legs down, and then the other side was with just my left foot down. And there's a very good reason why I did that. Now you see, in some of my videos, I always get this question. When I'm stopping at a red light, should I put my motorcycle in neutral gear? And my question to them is, why should you be doing that in the first place? Number one, you're putting yourself at risk by doing that. The main reason is because your reaction time is a lot lower when your motorcycle is in neutral gear. Someone can come from behind you and they could just smash right into you. And if you feel like they're coming in really hot behind you and you just want to escape that situation, the reaction time between pulling in your clutch, banging down into first gear, and escaping that situation becomes a lot more time consuming, and fractions of a second during those type of situations means either life or death. So my recommendation is to never ever put your motorcycle in neutral gear. I can probably tippy toe, but that's pretty much it. I really can't flat foot the motorcycle at all, so maybe that's one of the reasons why I never developed this habit of putting both feet on the ground. But for you tall guys out there, I know I see you on the road all the time. Putting your motorcycle in neutral gear at a red light, it's only 1 or 2 minutes that you have to wait until the light turns green again. But that one habit, one day, can become a disaster. I know holding the clutch at a red light is a pain in the ass, but guess what? The other negative consequence is that as a result of you putting your motorcycle into neutral gear, it lets your mind rest. It's just that when your mind is at rest and it's not fully alert, those are the type of situations where bad things can happen. The milliseconds of time that you can save by pulling in your clutch, banging down into the gears, and then taking off can mean either life or death. So please, do me a favor, don't ever put your motorcycle into neutral gear when you're at a red light. Case in point, right over here. You see, I got one foot down, okay? And the other foot is on the right peg. And right now, it's on the rear brakes. Now you see this is a slight little hill and I'm not going backwards. That's because my right foot is on the brake. So always cover your rear brakes. I'm not asking you to ride your rear brakes. Totally different. Don't ever ride your rear brakes. Number one, you'll wear them down, and number two, it'll just slow you down unnecessarily. So pay attention to that as well. In a red light situation that I'm coming up right now, I'm using my rear brakes to slow myself down, as you can see, going down into first gear, and now gracefully slowing down with my rear brakes. 99% of the time you may not have a bad situation, but one day there might be. It might be a drunk driver or someone looking at their phone and not paying attention, because we're motorcyclists and we're invisible to everybody. So in those type of situations, one day it might happen, but in case it does and you're looking at your 6 like I am right now, you can avoid those situations. All right, now let's go ahead and talk about number 2. Number 2 is all about covering your front brakes. Now you see, previously we were talking about the little split seconds that could potentially save your life. Well, covering your brakes is an additional couple of milliseconds that can save your life as well. And when you first start building this habit of covering your front brakes, all you need to do is use your index finger as well as your middle finger. Now you see, covering your brakes is something most track guys do because they're going really fast and the next apex is coming up. So they want to be ready to pull on the front brakes, and this increases the reaction time. But on the street, it's a survival skill. And the milliseconds that it takes for you to open up your hand and grab your front brakes could mean a disaster or your life being saved. Just like not putting your motorcycle into neutral gear. When you're riding your motorcycle, it's all about saving those little milliseconds. Every single millisecond could potentially save your life. Number one, imagine if someone was coming hot behind you, having to bang down into first gear and then having to take off. That could have been a disaster. Number 2, imagine if a car abruptly stops right in front of you. You have to open up your hand and grab the front brakes. Those additional milliseconds can mean life or death. So this technique isn't something that's just developed for the racetrack. On the street, this is a life-saving technique, and you don't have time to think, because in those type of situations, don't worry about banging down into first gear. Your main priority at that time is to pull on your brakes, the front and the rear, preferably, because that's 100% braking force, and to get out of that situation as quickly as possible. All right, now we're on to number 3, and I think a lot of riders are guilty of this one. Correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of riders use the front and the rear brakes totally wrong. On the street, when you're riding above 20 miles an hour, use mostly your front brakes. And then below 20 miles an hour, transition to your rear brakes. I'm not exactly sure if this is with every single rider, but I've noticed that with the people that I've met before in the motorcycling community, and this one guy, he was on a ZX6R and he was using primarily his rear brakes until I kind of pulled him to the side and was like, dude, you just skidded for like 30 feet coming from a stop. Because we were both like, you know, having some fun, some spirited fun on the street, let's just say that. And I was like, how could you skid? What exactly happened? What did you do? Because I kind of knew that he was using his rear brakes. And he was like, yeah, I use my rear brakes to stop. I was like, don't do that. You got 70 to 80% of your stopping power in the front, and you got 20 to 30% of your stopping power in the rear. And the reason why I say 20, 30, 70, 80 is because on certain bikes it's different. On sport bikes, I would say 80% of your stopping power is in the front, for sure. I'm not exactly sure for others, so let's just say 20, 30, 70, 80 to be on the safe side. So get into the habit of using your front and your rear brakes properly, because if you use your rear brakes going 60 miles an hour like I am right now, and if your motorcycle doesn't have ABS, guess what's going to happen? Your motorcycle is going to fishtail. And if there's ever an emergency situation and you panic brake and you use your rear brakes, what's going to happen is that the rear of your motorcycle is going to come around and you'll be on your side hitting the car in front of you. So don't make the mistake of doing that. Instead, use your front brakes. And as a matter of fact, what I would recommend is practicing emergency braking situations by using 100% of your motorcycle's braking force, which means using the front and the rear brakes together. Now I'm doing about 16 miles an hour. It makes sense for me to use my rear brakes. Hypothetically speaking, at 30 miles an hour, I could still use my rear brakes, but it doesn't make sense because I got 70 to 80% of the braking force in the front. And if you continuously use the front and the rear as they were meant to be used, then one day when you get to an emergency type situation, not only could it potentially save your life, but if you ever go to the track, this tip will become very useful as well, because guarantee you, if you're doing 100 miles an hour around a corner and then the apex comes and you slam on your rear brakes, your back end is going to slide out. So not only is this tip useful on the street, but it's also something that's a requirement when you're at the track. All right, now we're ready for number 4, the 4-second rule. What exactly is the 4-second rule? Well, the idea is that you always want to be 4 seconds away from the car in front of you, from the pedestrian, from the bicyclist, from the cyclist, or any other vehicle. In a lot of my videos, I always tell people, give cars a lot of space cushion. Now, you see, this makes me feel really good because there's nobody in front of me. But when I'm coming to a stop like this, I always make sure to give cars a lot of space as well, at least 1 or 2 car lengths. And what I like to do is I like to position myself probably on their right side mirror, so this way they can see me on their right side mirror as well. And the section on the right also gives me enough area to escape if I need to. Now, I see in a situation like this, the 4-second rule still kind of applies, but the 4-second rule is mostly whenever you're going a little bit faster. When you're slower in busier traffic like where I am right now, in California, we got something called lane splitting, which makes riding more safe, if you ask me, simply because I can see who's on my left and on my right with my right and left mirrors, and I'm in the center. Nobody can plow from behind me, and this gives me an opportunity to escape right in between the cars if I need to, just like that. This is why lane splitting in California is something that I absolutely love. There's a lot of things that suck in California, but lane splitting isn't one of them, let me tell you. If you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, lane splitting aside, because not everybody has that, but as far as giving other cars space cushion like I am giving this guy right now. You see, I'm not in his ass. Like, I'm not like I'm only doing this as an example. Normally this would give me the cringes, but I always see motorcyclists doing stuff like this. They're literally like less than a half bike length away from the car in front of them at a red light or a stop sign or something like that. You can't escape from a situation like that. If you see somebody coming in hot behind you and they're making you feel uncomfortable, it's difficult to escape that kind of situation. Since the start of this video, the theme has always been lowering the reaction time it takes to get out of a bad situation, right? So by giving yourself enough space cushion and by positioning yourself correctly inside of the lane, you give yourself the opportunity to escape a bad situation. And in case that guy in front of you stops abruptly, you have time, you have a reaction time to slow down. Now, if you're too close to the guy in front of you and your mind is elsewhere, you don't have the reaction time to slow down as fast as you want to slow down. And so this is why it's important to practice the 4-second rule. But if you're in an urban situation like I am and you're doing 20 miles an hour, between you and the guy in front of you, give him at least 2 car lengths. This way, in case you're not paying attention, because sometimes the mind, you know, wanders off and you're thinking about something else, you can at least like escape from a situation by pulling over to the side. Or maybe he's on his device, on his phone. You have the opportunity to kind of swerve and go to the right. This way you avoid a negative situation like an accident or rear-ending that guy, or somebody from behind rear-ending you, if you know what I'm talking about. Alright guys, we are at number 5. And this one, I particularly want to advise new riders, not necessarily people with a lot of experience. Now, you see, if you have a lot of experience under your belt, you've taken a couple of courses, you know the rules of the road, you know traffic situations, you know how to turn your motorcycle really quickly, you know how to take the correct lines, throttle control, brakes, you know it all. This rule probably doesn't apply to you, but this one's mostly for the new guys, because the new guys, you still have a lot to learn. So my recommendation is, in order to avoid accidents, do not participate in group activities. Group rides are what I'm talking about. Group rides have a mix of a lot of different people. It's like, if you've ever done a track day before, you know, track days are amazing. I always advocate track days. I always talk about them, but you have different groups. You got group A, you got group B, you got group C. A is advanced and C is beginner. When it comes to group rides, you don't have that. You got a lot of people who are brand new, they just got their motorcycle and they're looking to be social with other people. Totally get it. I was in your shoes. I did the exact same thing until that day where I rode with that guy and then he ended up taking a tumble and I felt horrible for him, and then from that day going forward, I was just against group rides in general, and I don't like doing them, and I think it's a bad idea. But like I said, this isn't for people who know what they're doing. This is only for beginner riders. So if you're a beginner rider, please avoid group rides until you're experienced enough and you know exactly what you're doing. You have full control of the motorcycle. You're perfect with your throttle, or close to perfect. You know how to take turns correctly. Whoa, did you see that? That could have been dangerous if he didn't see me and I didn't honk. Anyway, stuff like that is what you got to worry about. As a brand new rider, you got so many things to think about, you got so many things to learn, and so many things to wrap your brain around, that going to a group ride takes you out of your element. And when you go on a group ride, you're going from total beginner to someone who's trying to keep up with people with a lot more experience and a lot more time in the saddle. And you're just not there yet, because what happens is in group rides, there's something called FOMO, okay? And you're gonna get FOMO, which is fear of missing out. You did this because you wanted to be social, you did this because you wanted to be with people who were like-minded just like you, and I totally get it. But these people that you're riding with, they're all different skill levels. This isn't a track day where it's safe as possible. Everybody's broken into A, B, and C groups. Everybody's together, and there are no rules, there are no laws, and even though there is a speed limit on the road, nobody really follows it, and you're gonna get yourself in a situation where you can potentially get hurt, because I experienced this many times in a lot of different group rides that I've done.
A few moments later.
Anyway, the whole idea is to stay safe on the road, regardless if you're a beginner or an advanced rider. And this is why I created the Motorcycle Mastery course. I wanted riders to have a methodical way of learning things and not waste a lot of time on the road, creating bad habits and making lots of mistakes. So if you're interested, there's a link down below. Go ahead and check it out. And until the next episode, I'll see you guys later. Peace.